Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, Tavarich and Tavariches. Well, here we are in Russia. You know, I've never been in this part of Texas before. Now, tonight we're broadcasting from Moscow, ladies and gentlemen, for a diplomatic corps of the America, Britain, and Canada in this wonderful ballroom, or gymnasium. Or what kind of a garage is this, anyway? Now, we're thrilled to be in here, and it's a wonderful feel for me. This is quite a switch, you know, entertaining our civilians overseas. And it's wonderful to see you. Funny, I never thought of working in embassy before. With my type of act, I can use diplomatic immunity. And I'm happy to have the chance to work for the State Department. Now I'll get even for that passport picture. It's a beauty. Looks like George Arliss on the way to a health farm. And I hope you'll be very cooperative tonight, because on my passport I wrote comedian. And I'd hate to have the Russians think I lied. No, the State Department was glad to let me come here because I'm cooperative, I'm personable, I'm charming and expendable. I'm here on what is known as a cultural exchange, and I'm sure you all know how that works. For instance, we sent Porgy and Bess over here, and they sent back the Moscow Ballet. Well, I'm here in exchange for Mike Romanoff and 4 cans of caviar. But I had a little trouble getting my visa. I really did, but I guess they were worried about the capitalistic influence, you know, but I explained our income tax system, and they yelled Tavarich, and here I am. And I had a nice flight from America, although the takeoff was a little noisy. It's the last time I ever take one of those non-scheduled flights from Cape Canaveral. I flew from Copenhagen to Moscow on the F-104, the Russian jet airliner. You know, the Russians had to go to jets. Standard Oil wouldn't give them a credit card. And, no, but I got a wonderful tribute at the airport. They fired 21 shots in the air in my honor. Of course, it would have been nicer if they waited for the plane to land. They were wonderful to me going through the customs. It's the first time I've ever been X-rayed free. I'd have gotten in quicker if it wasn't for one tiny little mistake. It's the last time I borrowed Walter Winchell's passport. But it's a thrill to be here in Russia. And I know I'm in Russia because this morning my stomach got up 2 hours before I did and had a bowl of borscht. And it's a fascinating place. Everybody looks like Gregory Ratoff. It's really amazing. Surprisingly enough, I'm not having any trouble with the language. Nobody speaks to me. You know, the Russian language is very guttural. I cleared my throat in a restaurant today, and the waitress slapped my face. And these Russian gals are really big and strong. The maid made up my bed this morning with me in it. But it's nice to be in Moscow in the spring. I know it's spring. The snow is turning green. I went out to buy one of those fur hats, you know, that you see them wearing in the pictures all the time, and I found out the truth. Those aren't fur hats. That's the way they cut hair here. And it's a little colder than I thought it would be. Last night I tripped and broke my breath. I shouldn't complain about the weather because I have a beautiful room at the hotel on the 6th floor with a terrace. Well, it isn't exactly a terrace. The fellow that shovels the sidewalk and forgot to show up. I'm not kidding. I phoned down for ice water this morning. The bellhop came up and opened the window. No, it was about 20 below this morning, and I jumped out of bed, turned on the shower, and almost stoned myself to death. But my room has every convenience. They even have a bottle of lighter fluid in the room. At least I thought it was lighter fluid until I heard the Zippo hiccup. And it's not easy to tell how cold it really is here. Anyway, when the thermometer goes below freezing, a sign lights up that says, "Comrade, it ain't so hot in Florida either." And how about that vodka? Now I know how they got their Sputnik up first. I'm surprised the whole country isn't up there with it. I had a little. It's sort of an alcohol rub from the inside. And how about those Russian cigarettes, huh? I've seen long fillers, but I've never heard of smoke having to pay a toll to get through. It's sort of a butt with a long handle. They have a filter that long. You take a drag, and by the time the smoke gets to you, you've given up the habit. And of course, they have some beautiful art galleries here, but the subway trains run right through them. I must explain for our audience that they have murals down in the subway, and they're very beautiful. It's the first time I ever saw a train in a drive-in movie. And of course, those fur hats they wear keep fooling me. Twice I've given my seat to fellas. And once to a raccoon. No, but I find it very interesting here. I really do. Before my visit, all I knew about Russia was what I read on Smirnoff labels. But I think it's... And of course, this morning I got thrown out of the Kremlin. There was a star in the door, and I thought it was my dressing room. No, but everybody's visiting Moscow lately. It's become another Miami Beach, only here you're a peasant before you pay your hotel bill. And Cary Grant, there's a new name. You know the Chinese actor Cary Grant? Cary Grant was pleased because nobody bothered him for an autograph. Well, I'm a little different. Go ahead and annoy me. I wanted to bring Anita Ekberg, but Mr. Dulles nixed it for now. She goes only when everything else fails. And I also asked Bing to come with me, but he couldn't make it. He had an exam in formula making coming up. He's going to have a baby, you know, Bing. I think that's wonderful at his age. It's a great victory for Geritol, I want to tell you that. No, with American pictures coming over here, you'll see some of our great stars like Sesha Hayakawa and Shirley Yamaguchi, Anna Magnani, Pat Boone. How he got in there, I'll never know. No, the Russians may find some of our historical movies a little hard to take. For instance, if they see War and Peace, it may come as quite a shock to them to see Napoleon was really chased out of Moscow by Audrey Hepburn. But the American colony, of course, gets our movies a little late here. Several people asked me if Fatty Arbuckle was on for an Academy Award this year. But I was surprised to see all the TV aerials in Moscow. There's a forest of them, almost 1 million aerials. No sets, just aerials. That's not true. They have a lot of television here, and I'm interested in the television here. I sat up last night and watched an old Russian movie. I could tell it was an old Russian movie because Tchaikovsky was playing fiddle for the Tsar. Now, Russian TV viewers are a lot like Americans. They're crazy about Westerns. There's only one difference. They root for the Indians. But there must be a lot of American tourists in Moscow right now because the towels in my room aren't marked his and hers. They're marked ours, and don't you forget it. No, it's pretty nerve-wracking staying in a country where the government owns everything. If you steal a towel, it's a federal rap. I've had to unpack 3 times. And you know, it's amazing the way the people can get the wrong impression, because one Russian official showed me a picture of the starving people in America. People without shoes and nothing to eat, absolutely desperate. And I couldn't argue with him. It was a picture of the bus station in Las Vegas. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet our landlord here. Our ambassador here at the American Embassy, Mr. Tommy Thompson, right here.
Thank you, Bob. We here in the embassy think these exchanges are a fine thing in developing mutual understanding. They do give us a little extra work in the embassy, but tonight we're especially glad because we've had a chance to see your show and for one evening to feel that we're back home again. I want to thank you very much on behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I know it did give you a lot of work borrowing these chairs around the neighborhood. And I also want to thank Mrs. Thompson for all the hospitality. And, of course, to this staff that helped us here, Edar Remstead from Grand Falls, North Dakota, and Ted Chariot from Norwalk, Connecticut. And, of course, this crew that helped us, this Russian crew. How about a hand for them, huh? I just want to say that's about it. Remember, this show is coming to you from an American embassy, and everything you hear tonight is classified information. I just want to say thanks again. It's wonderful to see all you gypsies, and I just want to tell you that after this jaunt, the trip to the moon will be an anticlimax. Thank you very much. Good night.
Tonight we mark the 9th annual presentation of the Patriotism Award by the senior class of Notre Dame. Recipients in the past have included J. Edgar Hoover, Bishop Fulton Sheehan, General Curtis LeMay, then Senator John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, Dr. Warner von Braun, then Vice President Richard Nixon, and tonight, and Admiral Rickover. give you the president of the senior class of 1962, Earl Linehan. President of the senior class of 1962, Mr. Earl Linehan, who will present the 9th Annual Patriotism Award to Mr. Bob Hope.
Father Hesburgh, Mr. and Mrs. Hope, Reverend Fathers, ladies and gentlemen. 9 years ago, the senior class of Notre Dame added to the program of the Washington Day exercises the practice about honoring an outstanding American patriot. By so doing, they began a tradition which annually pays tribute to a living example of the Washington tradition of justice, personal integrity, and devotion to country. Mr. Hope has distinguished himself as a patriot not only by bringing pleasure and enjoyment to the American scene, but also by tirelessly entertaining servicemen at home and abroad, in war and in peace. The seniors of Notre Dame now gladly honor you, sir, as a true patriot, and ask God ever to grace you in the words and works that give such great pleasure to all our people amidst the terrible tensions and anxieties of this age. It is now my privilege to introduce the Reverend Theodore M. Hesburgh, President of the University of Notre Dame.
Ladies and gentlemen, just one quick word of commendation to the senior class for their choice this year. I'm sure when the choice was made, some people must have said offhandedly, as people always do, how come Bob Hope is a patriot? Well, after you've traveled 2 million miles trying to keep people happy all over the world, well, then you can put in for a patriotism award, too. Reminds me of the fellow that was knocking religion. About the young student that was knocking religion around here, and he decided that he was through with Christianity, and he went to one of the older men in the theology department, and he said, "Father, I've decided to form my own religion." And he said, I'm through with this standard business you're handing out around here. Maybe you give me a little advice on how I might get started. I'm just dissatisfied with what is. And this old priest said, yes. He said, I'll give you a little advice. I suggest you arrange to get yourself crucified and then rise on the third day. That's a good way to get started. Make one point in presenting Bob Hope to you this evening. There's been a great deal written in the learned journals recently about patriotism and super-patriotism. And I have been hard-pressed on occasion to demonstrate or to say what super-patriotism is. I think I sense it when I smell it. But the thought struck me tonight that maybe Bob Hope has given us the key to what super-patriotism is and what true patriotism is. It seems to me that super-patriotism is patriotism without a smile. It's patriotism that is willing to die, but only grimly. And it's patriotism that has never really gotten a laugh from anyone. One of the great patriots was a martyr named Thomas More, and on the way up the scaffold, the sheriff said, "Can I help you up, Sir Thomas?" And he said, "Well, I'm going up to get my head cut off." He said, "Tell you what, you help me up, and coming down, I'll fend for myself." Another great patriot, I think, is a fellow like John the 23rd, who, when he had his first press conference and they asked him a serious question that he could have been real pious and holy about, and they said, "How many people work in the Vatican?" He thought for a minute and he said, "About half of them." All of this, I think, gentlemen, adds up to the fact that we don't want any patriotism with long faces around here. We would rather have patriotism with a smile, because that shows that together with the inner manifestation of being loyal to the things that are worth being loyal to, we can do it with a happy heart. And now I give you the man who has made many happy hearts all over America, all over the world, Bob Hope.
Thank you very much, Reverend Theodore Martin Hesburgh. Notre Dame faculty, alumni, student body. Senior class, the Congregatio Sanctae Crucis. Respects to all the great men who have contributed to the fame of Notre Dame, including Newt Rockney, the Four Horsemen, and Faircatch. Not to forget Faircatch Crosby. No, I mean Corby, naturally. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here once again, and very thrilled to finally get on. I've had a lot of warm-ups in my day. But I didn't expect to follow that many laughs. Father Hesburgh was very good. And then Dick Meese had some funny comments. I would just like to know if it's just a coincidence that this is the first Washington Day exercise where the father started to smell patriotism. Good old Wabash. I'm always very happy to come back to Notre Dame. I've been here before, and I know your founder, Pat O'Brien. And this is really wonderful, me getting the Patriotism Award. It's really a little different, and I'm very proud. I'm very proud, and I'm very grateful. You know, in this country, getting a Patriotism Award is a little like getting a loving cup for liking your mother. This is a surprise, it really is. I thought I'd been paid off well enough when I became an American citizen. I won't say that I deserve this award. I won't say that. On the other hand, I don't exactly consider myself another Benedict Arnold. To me, a good patriot is a good citizen, and I do try to be a good citizen. I go to PTA meetings. I'm a registered voter. I play touch football, and I put out my campfire. However, before I say another word, I have a confession, and this is a pretty good place to have one, isn't it? I almost didn't get this award. Actually, I was the committee's second choice. They tried to contact the other fella, but he was in orbit. And I thought that was kind of a thrilling thing. I mean, it's really, I think, the most thrilling thing in the past 50 years that happened to our country, John Glenn's ride. I'd always hoped to make that ride myself, but not while I was alive. And I watched the whole thing, and I thought it was just great, but I just wondered one thing. Why did this fella have to get up 160 miles and then tell jokes? I mean, that's pretty hard to top. Now, I can't say this award doesn't thrill me. I haven't felt so good about anything since the government let me declare Crosby a dependent. I first thought that I was getting this award for paying my taxes. I thought I was getting it for leaving the country so often. But when you think of the former recipients of this award, it's hard to imagine a vaudeville ham like me up here grabbing off this fine honor. When you think that Admiral Rickover and General Curtis LeMay, Dick Nixon, President Kennedy, J. Edgar Hoover, who may investigate this night, and the other great statesmen, and now me, I feel as out of place as Dean Martin at a milk bar. Or Bobby Kennedy at a GE picnic. Or Carl Sandburg at the Peppermint Lounge. But that's America. It shows that anybody can win. That's our country. Imagine Sinatra owning a record company. In any other country, he'd be the Needle. And take Bing Crosby. He owns an orange juice company, a ball team, and half of California. Imagine where he'd be if he could sing. No, Lassie has her own convertible. She owns her own tree. She doesn't even chase cats. She has a stand-in for that. In any other country in the world, she'd be just a dog. And I've been lucky in our business. I've kidded our generals, our congressmen, and our presidents. If this was Russia, I'd be the master of ceremonies in a salt mine. In no other country in the world does free speech pay so well. I've had it great. I've lived off the fat of the land. This is all I've said. And just as you don't really appreciate your youth till you look back at it, you never realize how great this country is until you get away from it. This country is the only one of its kind. You've got to travel to realize that. I know, I've been around. I went to Russia in 1959. I had a very successful trip there. I got out. And I found out, by the way, that I have a large following in Russia. I didn't see them, but I'm sure they were there. And the Russians treated me very nicely until I said a few words on my show about their Sputniks. And then I said I wanted to congratulate the Russian scientists, but I couldn't speak German. Right in there. After you make a trip like that, you really appreciate free speech. In Russia, you only open your mouth when you go to the dentist. Can't you just picture a Russian newspaper article ending with the opinions expressed herein do not necessarily reflect those of the Kremlin? It'd probably be the end of the article, the newspaper, and the building, too. But lately, the Kremlin has dug up a few people who disagreed with them. They're having a little trouble trying to plant Stalin again. But I do think Khrushchev's softening up, because only the other day he was seen pounding the table with a slipper. Then you can figure out the Able for power swap. That took a lot of negotiating. The hardest one to convince was Able. And now President Kennedy wants to make another trade. Anybody for Barry Goldwater. But giving me an award, ladies and gentlemen, for entertaining servicemen is like giving Jackie Gleason an award for eating, because I've enjoyed every laugh and every boo. Seriously, though, they seemed to like me, too. There was sort of a fellow kinship between us. I knew what they were doing took courage, and They felt that way about my act, too. Back in 1941, I received an invitation to do my radio show from March Air Force Base in Riverside, California. That's when we had Jerry Colonna, Francis Langford, Skinny Ennis in the band, and even poor Miriam. And it was quite a switch from those Hollywood audiences. These guys really came to see a show. They weren't just looking for a place to rest their shopping bags. And they were just marvelous. The greatest audience I knew. They cheered, they applauded, and stamped their feet. Then the girls went off, and I came out. But I finally had me a captive audience, a comedian's dream, and I enjoyed it tremendously. The MPs guarding the exit, it was just beautiful. And the Defense Department loved it too. They'd never seen servicemen in such a fighting mood. From then on, when I arrived at the camp, they gave me everything I wanted, absolutely everything. Of course, I played some whack camps too. But about that time, I tried to enlist, but I was classified 4Z. That meant in case of an invasion, I piled sandbags around Walter Cronkite. Then the Defense Department got into the picture, and they probably said to themselves, what can we do with Hope? He's too young to retire, too old to draft, and too chicken to fight. They said, let's send him overseas to entertain the troops. Maybe the enemy will see him and get overconfident. So they sent me a wire reading, we are decorating you for your service to the servicemen. Please report to New Guinea for your medal. That didn't bother me because I've always been crazy about traveling. I think my mother put rocket fuel in my pablum. But it was the same story in the Pacific. I entertained everywhere for the Army, Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. And the sailors made me an honorary tar. On some ships, they even threw in the feathers. And I'll never forget the tribute paid me by one Marine. He said, in times of peril, he lifted our spirits, made us forget the war, and gave us the courage to go over the hill. I even got a citation for raising the morale of our troops in the Pacific, personally signed by Tojo. I also had my close calls, like arriving in a spot in Korea, a town called Wonsan, that was still held by the North Koreans. Laugh, I thought I'd die. Actually, this last incident was true, and I did the only honorable thing I could. I signed a separate peace treaty. Then came D-Day in Europe, and I went in 02. Not days, months. We had some very exciting moments. Many times our Air Force dropped me behind enemy lines, without a parachute. It was here, though, that I first saw what the American soldier was like, and the pride I felt, and the confidence he gave me that all would be right in the end was more gratifying than anything I could have given him. Believe me, I got a lot more out of my being there than they did. And why am I still playing camps? Let me try to give you the picture. A few years ago, we flew to Korea. On Christmas morning, we flew north from Seoul to the 38th parallel. Here we played a place called Bayonet Bow. There were 5,000 shivering GIs crouched in the snow. Some of them had been there since 6 in the morning because they wanted a good seat for the show. Believe me, I'd be there yet if I hadn't run out of idiot cards. I had breakfast that morning with Cardinal Spellman, and we had quite a time. And in fact, we played some of the same spots. That is, I played first, and he came along behind me and gave absolution to the troops. Now, I'm not by nature shy or unassuming, but when you meet these kind of guys all over the world, you shrink to your true size. I start thinking of fellas who really deserve the Patriotism Award, and I've seen a lot of them. I've seen them in spots in the Pacific that are only fly specks on the map. The map is blue, but on those dots of sand and coral, the rows of little crosses are white. Each one marks a patriot who left our country for our country's good. Like a young PFC I met in a forward hospital on Noumea. The medics had just brought him in, and he was getting a transfusion. And I passed his bed, and I looked down, and I said, "They're giving you the raspberry, huh, son?" And he said, "Yeah, it feels good," and he gave me a big smile. And after the show, I said to the doctor, I said, "How's that kid?" And he said, "He just died." You know, we talk about the dark side of the moon. When I think back on the 1940s in Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima, Okinawa, Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, brother, by day or by night, they were on the dark side of the earth. And lighting it up here and there with a smile, a laugh, a song. Well, let's say that I'm grateful that I could be one of the many entertainers who were privileged to be of service. I accept this award in memory of that young guy who got the blood transfusion on Noumea and all his buddies who were chips off the same American block. They had a nickname for young men like him, G.I. Joe. In my book, he's one of America's greatest patriots. As far as I'm concerned, you can call him G.I. George Washington. I'm glad that you invited me here to accept this award, and you feel that I've given of my talents and I deserve it. I feel that I'm not a giver, I'm a beneficiary. I've told a few jokes, I bounced around a few places, met a lot of great people, and that's it. I cast a few crumbs in the water and ended up with a whole bakery. You know, if Aladdin were suddenly to appear with his lamp, about the only thing I could ask for is a new golf swing. Thank you very much.